Step into the world of the Superpro podcast, where we lay out the blueprints of home service excellence. Join us as we break down the wins and struggles of pros who are at the top of their game. Put their wisdom into practice as you build your company's success. Today, Roland Ligtenberg, co-founder of Housecall Pro, talks with Rob Castelao, owner of Good Guy Plumbing. Rob shares his experience of starting a business with no background in the industry and how he's grown it over the last 25 years through branding, training, and the power of reviews thanks to quality service. Strong core values played a role along with help from coaches and mentors. They've grown to 12 employees and 8 trucks. The Superpro podcast is brought to you by Housecall Pro, the leading platform for the home service industry. Housecall Pro streamlines your workflows and simplifies everything from scheduling and dispatching to communication and billing. Join more than 40,000 home service pros who have already revolutionized their businesses. Work smarter with streamlined workflows, get organized with centralized information, and scale your business. Learn more at housecallpro.com. Let's dive into today's episode and uncover the secrets to success in the home service industry.
Hey everybody, you're listening to the Superpro podcast, where we cut through the noise and get to the core of what it takes to thrive in the home service industry. I'm Roland Ligtenberg, co-founder of Housecall Pro, and your guide to mastering the market, crushing your goals, and setting new benchmarks. We're here not just to make a living. We're about building legacies, igniting passions, and transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary. This episode, I've got the pleasure of talking to Rob Castelao. He's a driving force and owner behind Good Guy Plumbing. They're operating out of the South Bay beach cities of Los Angeles, so everything you see in the movies. Rob and his crew are out there not just fixing leaks, but they're setting the gold standard for service, of ambition, and growth. They've got 8 trucks on the road, 12 employees. They've got their eyes set on the $3 million a year mark, and they're a testament to what's possible when you combine grit with a solid game plan. We're going to learn a lot of tips and tricks from Rob. Thank you so much for being here today.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I got to say, what a very inspiring intro. That got me going.
I know. I'm excited myself. That's great. And it's so fun talking to you. We've known each other for so long. I don't know. It must have maybe been 2016, 2017 or so when you drove down to San Diego and came to our office for the first time, I feel like.
Oh my God. Yeah. It feels like it was just yesterday, but I mean, you're counting down the years. It's in 2024. You're talking about 8 years almost. It's insane.
8 years. No, I mean, you've built such an impressive company over the years. It's been really fun to watch. Tell us about sort of your early days. I mean, you're obviously doing great now, very successful. What was it like getting started? What caused you to even get going on it? And do you have any tips for kind of those folks a little earlier on their path?
Yeah, great question. So I could probably relate to a lot of early on companies that are just kind of figuring themselves out and kind of understanding what direction to go. I came into the plumbing industry with zero background at all in home services and construction and contracting in general. I'm not a guy that really lifted a wrench outside of maybe hanging a couple of pictures on a wall. So I was not the qualified guy on paper to open up a plumbing company, nor did anyone ever expect me, family, friends, and others in my community to open up and run a plumbing company. So I definitely raised a lot of eyebrows. I started when I was 24 years old. I was 2 years out of college. I was definitely a guy that thought he was going to go up the corporate ladder. I was in the car business actually before selling cars, funny enough, and I loved it. So I always kind of humbled myself and talked to some of my friends and family about, man, I was selling really nice cars back when I was a kid, and now I'm selling pipes and leaks and sewers and all this stuff. It's like I got very humbled. But, I came into this business with just kind of a vision for understanding the industry, especially in my area. I really saw a lot of first generation companies, and there was nothing really memorizing about them. And I just kept on seeing them driving by. My dad being in the business his whole life, just as a new construction plumber, always kind of put this idea in my head about, why don't you open up a service repair plumbing company? I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. But the older I got, as I was trying to figure out the direction for my career, I just kept paying attention more to my area, and I was looking at plumbing companies randomly. I've never looked at any plumbing company or any van or any truck. I never had any interest whatsoever until I started really tossing around the idea. And I'm like, you know what? There's nothing special that's really popping out to me about some of these companies driving around. There was no branding. There was no aha. There was nothing that really inspired me to call a plumber. And so I just kind of started putting my mind together. I was doing a lot of research, and I felt that there was such a unique opportunity of kind of ingesting myself with some of the creative vision that I have. And I'm like, you know what? I really think I could do something and make a splash and stick out to the community. So, I definitely learned along the way, man. I made countless mistakes. I didn't even know what a copper pipe was, an ABS drain. I definitely was in the truck with a plumber that I hired, my first plumber, literally learning step by step the basic baby steps of what it takes to be just a plumber. And from that point,
you didn't know anything about plumbing. You hired someone that did know something about plumbing, and that's kind of how you taught yourself. And that's the beginning of good guy plumbing.
That's how we were born, baby. I mean, I'm a little bit hesitant on telling some of my customers how we started, just so it doesn't get my credibility down. But people were obviously, they were taken back. I think it's just the type of company. I think the vision, the mission, the core values that we had. I think that's what really resonated with a lot of people in my community, and that's why it's kind of a testament to our success today.
So how do you go about finding employees? You've got a whole bunch now. You were able to convince someone that was a plumber to essentially work for you right out of the gate. What's your strategy? How do you do it?
So the first plumber amongst my family of contractors that weren't that, positive when I was trying to get into the business, they said, oh man, good luck finding employees, right? And even to this day, that's obviously just the biggest issue with most people is finding good quality employees. I went through 17 interviews and numerous applications before I actually found the guy. Literally so discouraged. I found a guy that walked in. He was relatively clean cut. He knew what he was talking about. We kind of clicked on our personalities and I think our vision. I essentially told him, hey, buddy, listen, you know how to do plumbing. I'm going to learn from you. I'm going to hop in the van. I'm going to get the business going, get the phone calls ringing. I'm going to make sure that we're going to get business. He says, cool, let's do it. That's how number one started. And then from that point, I just, you know what it was? It was my belief in creating the brand and just just what that means to other competitors and other people in our area. Like when people see us driving around, they see something special that really is kind of unlike every one of our competitors in here. So it just started drawing more people in. I got applications, people walking in, just asking questions. Hey, are you hiring? What is Good Guy Plumbing all about? I see your vans everywhere. It looks like a really cool company. And then we just started organically growing that way.
Yeah, I feel like branding has so much to do with it. Obviously, even the name itself, like Good Guy Plumbing, you feel like, all right, I'm doing business with a good guy, right? And like Good Guy Plumbers maybe is like opposite of some of the pictures sometimes people have in their mind. Where plumbing companies will just come in just to sell on you. So, how did you like establish the brand? Was that always your vision, like out of the get go? Is that something you kind of stumbled into, and like how's it evolved over time?
I knew that there was no way I was going to put lettering on the side of my van that said Rob Castelao's Plumbing Company. There was just no way. I go, what message is that sending to the community? Like, why in the hell would they care to pick up the phone and call this guy that nobody knows about? So I was just doing so much research and I was trying to find out. It was harder than I thought. I go, can I just find a cool looking logo, a brand, a good van wrap? And after just like weeks of research, I finally got around to the company KickCharge, which I know everybody kind of knows about in the Housecall Pro community. Mm-hmm. And that was my angle in. That was the first and best investment that I made before opening my doors. I had the vehicles wrapped, the website design, the logos, the shirts, the business cards, all the stationery. I wanted to make sure that when we opened doors, we were coming in with a splash. And the name was something that was extremely important because just like you said, right? Like Good Guy. This is a business and an industry, while it's a lot better now over the course of 20 to 25 years, has really been tarnished by the lack of bad contractors.
Yep.
And I thought by just kind of reverse engineering the marketing and the messaging to people where it's like, hey, we're going to be good people first, great plumbers second, which is one of our core values, two of our core values, excuse me. That's allowed us to, I think, really start connecting with so many people that never heard anything about us in our early years of business.
I love it. So tell me, so what are your core values?
So our core values are actually Good Guy Plumbing. So it's good people, overachievers who go above and beyond, outstanding in our community, dedicated to our customers, great plumbers, upstanding in our community, and you are always treated with integrity and respect.
There you go.
I should remember that. It took me a little while to memorize all that.
Yeah, but I think that's so important. And, as you start hiring people and building your team, you want them to abide by, and not just abide by, but like really like make those things come to life, especially for your customers. And you can definitely tell both throughout your website, your presence, and even your own presence just online that those are things that you embody. What would you recommend for someone that's just like starting out? I think for a lot of folks, it seems daunting because it seems expensive to do out of the gate. Like, how did you mentally like prepare yourself for that? Any advice you'd give someone that maybe still hasn't made that leap yet to define their core values, to define their branding, define their marketing message, kind of all those things that you did sort of, I don't know, it was like your instinct.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And, I think there's two ways to answer this question, right? So there's two different types of businesses. And I think business owners and people that are in today's times, right? Like, are you a smaller business that has been doing it for 15, 20 years? And you're either considering, how do I just, start growing and stop doing what I've been doing? And then there's obviously the new guys that are maybe getting to business or have been the last couple of years and just looking for some traction on how to scale. I would say for the people that have been doing it for a long time, the biggest thing I think is mindset. The mindset to really just start shaking off some of the habits and start shaking off some of the tendencies of doing what you've always thought were the good ways of operating a business, and really start exploring new avenues on how I could actually still adhere to my values and the reason I got into business. But let's start understanding what it's going to take to show those in a more positive direction that's going to result in scale and growth. I think for both of those situations, the number one thing that I recommend people, because it's obviously scary. You're wearing so many different hats. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I always knew that I needed help. And I think that was one of my things, is recognizing that there's other services, there's coaches, there's resources out there that have been there, done that, and could lay the foundation for you so you don't have to carry all that weight and make a bunch of mistakes doing it. And I signed up with a business coach. I've been through a couple of them now. I'm with one currently right now. Mm-hmm. And I can't even tell you, they've been so instrumental in just like shaping my understanding of what does training look like? What does structuring your organization look like? How do you answer the phone call to make sure that you're really presenting the best value to that new customer that called? And all the ins and outs in between. I mean, that would have taken me so long between YouTube videos and social media and this and that. It fast tracked me, and it developed me as a business owner to kind of understanding those just core principles of running a really good business and then expanding upon those. So I definitely think that's a really great start in the right direction, at least for that.
Yeah, I think being humble enough to ask for help, I think because you started not even really knowing what you're doing out of the gate, I think that like your default behavior, just being like, all right, coach me, give me everything you got.
Right.
For folks that are still trying to figure out, like, where can I find a coach or a mentor or like a community? Like how do you recommend like going about that process?
There are so many out there, and you're right. There's almost too many out there where you're like, oh God, who do I choose?
Yeah.
I would definitely rely on the community of people that you are involved with. So like Housecall Pro community is great. There's so many great successful business owners out there. I think that would give you better guidance on what coaching group is probably best for you as far as where you're at with your company today. There's companies out there that really just have, a very little foundation of business principles and operations that maybe they just need a starter coach. Maybe the likes of Nexstar and Service Excellent are not truly ready for those types of companies yet. I think to really get involved with some of the smaller business coaches, and those guys actually will focus on like $500 to $1 to $2 million companies, and they're going to really start getting you to where you need to be quicker than some of the big guys.
Yeah, I think that's good advice too, because I feel like just because you make a decision doesn't mean you're stuck with it forever. So it's better to do something than do nothing. And so as long as you have that mindset and mentality, you're always going to be able to learn something from somebody. And not all the things are always going to work for all of the people. And any good coach will hopefully tell you that. And hopefully they'll say like, hey, what I'm about to tell you may or may not work. But I've done it this way before, and I think you should try it.
Right.
But yeah, don't be too locked in, because as you evolve and as you've evolved your business since I've known you, you've gone through some changes as well, right? In that exact same vein. As you're thinking about kind of just growth, you need to bring in great people. And in order to bring in great people, you might not be hiring people that are actually in the trades themselves or are still relatively new. I know that you've put a lot of time and effort into just like consistency in the training. You built out an amazing training facility. But for people that are just starting out and hiring their first couple of people, how do they make sure they're starting off on the right foot and making sure that there's at least some consistency there and they're matching the things that you want as a business owner?
Tell yourself, maybe it involves you writing down, what type of company do I want to have? That's where you got to start, right? What kind of company do I want to have? Don't look at your competitors. Don't go on Google and type in good plumbing companies and start cheating off that. If you're in business or have been in business for a long time, really be just truthful with yourself as far as what vision do you want to have for that company. Start creating that vision, right? I would absolutely, without a doubt, the best thing that anyone could ever do, far none, is going to be getting a great brand. Whether you go with the likes of Dan Antonelli with Kick Charge, which I highly recommend, he's the best in the business, or getting somebody like that, because that's going to establish to your customers, your external customers and your internal customers, your employees, what type of company is that? Because they don't really know until they get inside of your building. They start engaging with you, meeting your people, kind of understanding your atmosphere, your culture. But that's not communicated to anybody unless there's something out there that describes that message to them. So the branding is going to really showcase the best of your type of company that you want to run, and obviously the vision of your company. So branding is key. I think it really is a defining pillar with trickles down to so many different aspects of your business, your culture, your people, your atmosphere, so many things that it's the backbone of where you really want to see that company go. And that's going to start getting eyeballs around, and people are going to start talking. Your employees will start talking, because if you guys run a great business and those employees are in here, they're going to start talking to other employees. They're going to start talking to other plumbers or electricians or HVAC technicians. When they're at the supply house, they're out on the weekend, they're running to them or wherever. And they're going to be like, oh, wow, man, I keep seeing your trucks everywhere. I see that Good Guy Plumbing or whatever company is everywhere. How's everything going over there? Oh, man, it's great. The people there are great. The culture's there. They're going to start talking about all the amazing things. And guess what? That's going to start drawing them in.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, those are really great trips. And then as it trickles down to just like training and that being, once you've attracted that talent, that kind of comes in organically because they've heard about the brand, they've seen it around. How does that kind of play into that? And is that like a big reason why people want to join like Good Guy Plumbing, because they feel like they've got like the resources or the training, like access to it, the facility? How does that work?
So a few different things that I've leveraged outside of just being, very good people, the culture, the branding, a lot of other things that I kind of pulled levers on that obviously are designed for my team to get better because I want to focus on them. But obviously just to encourage other people, market to other people that are not involved in our business. The training center was key. There's nobody in our area that does it. There's maybe a couple huge $50+ million companies that actually invested in a full training center. I saw the need for that immediately, not only to get my employees better, to make sure they're taking care of our clients the way that we want them to get taken care of, but it's going to attract a lot of other people that just don't have the same amount of resources and support. Like the training center is key. I mean, people see that, wow, these people are actually investing in my growth and my success so I can be the best that I can be. So I could obviously have a good future for myself. That's key. The business coach we're with Nexstar, they've been just instrumental in a lot of our success, but they've helped us and helped myself be able to train just a lot of soft skill training in just such a positive way. So I've been really able to concentrate on just soft skill training, technical training with the likes of my business coaching and the training center that we've developed. And that's just really helped encourage my guys to evolve in capacities that I would have never imagined had I not had that.
Totally. So let's say I'm like, all right, Rob, you convinced me I want a training facility in my warehouse. Like, did you go build it out yourself? Did you frame it all yourself? Were there like situations where you're like, oh yeah, this is where we screwed up here and here, so I'm going to build those like scenarios? Or like, talk to me about it, like physically. What does it look like? How did you even do it?
Man, that's great. It came down to a bunch of scratch and paper, and I was going through so many different designs, but ideally, I really wanted to have 3 elements to my training center. I wanted to have an area where my guys that are very green with little to no experience could start soldering pipe for the first time without burning down a piece of wood. They could mess up as many times and just continue to practice repetitively until they got better. Phase 2, I have an open construction layout. So I have toilets everywhere, I have sinks everywhere, but it's all open floor plan. You could actually see behind the walls. It's a live plumbing system, so there's actually water and drains that work, gas that works in there. But that's where we actually start putting pen to paper, and they could start resetting toilets. They could start putting faucets in as many times as possible. But we're in an environment where, hey, if they scratch a floor or maybe they don't hook it up right, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
And then right next to it is phase 3, where I actually have a model home, and it's all drywall. I have ceiling fans. I got tiled showers in there. I wanted to really simulate a live home because that's where all the most difficulties for most technicians are: role playing, soft skills. So I would stand on the other side of the door as a homeowner. They would actually knock on the door. We would simulate a leak or simulate an issue, like a real life issue. And they would approach it and actually literally walk through the entire service system, build a relationship with me. I would need to gain their trust, and they would need to show me that they actually know what they're talking about, that they're a professional, they're putting their booty covers on, the whole 9 yards, everything to presenting options and actually doing the repair. So we could actually evolve on that as well.
I think all the things you're doing underneath the covers are a lot of the reasons why you're seeing a lot of success, because you're putting that time in to make sure that the delivery of your service is like at such a high standard. And I think that also lets you charge the prices you're doing. And also in an area where, people expect the best, especially in some of those coastal cities, you got to come in with that polish. You can't just be lackadaisical. It can't be someone's first day on the job.
Right.
It has to feel like, oh, okay, yep, I trust them. Let's go with whatever options they give me.
Totally. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I could take an apprentice and, a lot of strategy too. I mean, just a really quick thing back to just recruiting people and finding people. Your best employees, believe it or not, are going to be all these young kids that are getting out of high school and college. Guys that now finally, since the blue collar conversation has kind of entered back into the real world and people are starting to pay attention and getting back and interested into the blue collar space. You get guys that maybe worked at Starbucks. They're trying to look for a career change. They're getting out of high school or college and just trying to figure out what to do. Taking those guys, injecting them into our system, getting them trained so they can actually be a performing technician in just a couple of years or less. I mean, it's amazing. I'd rather them learn on my job site at my training center than actually try to learn at somebody's house. So they can get the repetitions, they can get the practice, they understand our expectations, our service quality, all those things. And guess what? Those guys are so invested and grateful that you took them in when they didn't know anything. You took them through the trenches, the training. You got them to a place where they could actually be performing out there and making a very good living for themselves. You molded them to your way. You molded them to the way that you want to do business. You have no bad habits of the past, et cetera. And, I'm really finding good success in scaling. Most of our employees, believe it or not, are under 25 years old.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that goes to show, it's really interesting seeing how the tides are changing and people are realizing that, getting a job in the trades or getting a career in the trades is a viable way of life. And in fact, often more lucrative than any other way of life because, what are you going to do? Live without plumbing? That's not going to happen. That's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Housecall Pro because I'm just super curious. You've always said you've been with us for a long time. So you've seen Housecall Pro and it was just I don't know, I feel like it was just like a list of jobs and you can take a credit card payment just from a mobile app. And now we've got all the things, but talk to me about what was your decision point in you starting your business and what caused you to even look for software for your business? Why did you even need it? What would you advise others?
Because we're in 2017 at the time when I started my business.
Yeah.
And 2017, it's funny, if you look at 2017 now, 2024, you think, oh my God, it's so long in the past. But no, 2017, people are still buying on Amazon. E-commerce was at its peak. Everything was transferring to online. I mean, we've had phones for, almost a decade at that point. We're in a technological world and it wasn't going anywhere. It was only going up. I knew we needed software. It's funny. There's so many small companies, business owners over here that are still doing pen and paper. And I have good relationships with them. I'm like, what are you doing, man? How are you able to operate, scale a business? What happens if you get a call back? You're going to dig through 9 files of paperwork. It didn't make sense. And I think most people now are on software. So it's kind of crazy. It's like a unicorn to see somebody actually on pen and paper. But Housecall Pro stuck out to me because, their service time, we were obviously too small, but I didn't know that at the time. So I was still considering them and all these other guys, but it was just so seamless to use, Roland. You know what I mean? There's a mobile app. I'm an iPhone guy. Even if you're an Android guy, it's just the ability to really operate your day-to-day duties in your business from just the touch of your fingers was really empowering to me, especially when I'm small. It's me wearing every hat in the book.
Yeah,
I needed the ability and the flexibility to be able to operate my business from anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then you started using it. And I think with everything, as you grew, we grew. Mm-hmm. And, we've added more features. There's a period in time there where, you're like, oh, you know what? I feel like I need something else. And I didn't prep you for this. And so that moment happened. Like, tell me about that moment and why'd you come back? Like, what was that journey like? Because I feel like too many people take that journey and, they sometimes have a regret.
Oh man. You know what? Listen, you never learn until you do it. You can tell everybody, don't do it, don't turn left, don't turn right, don't do this. We're entrepreneurs, and I think most of us entrepreneurs, especially in the home services businesses, we like to just chase all the shiny things, and we don't really understand like the implications of what that means for us and our business down the road. And like us and kids, we just do what we think looks good for us. Like, oh, this company has this, I need this, so I think I got to switch and make this insane change to my organization that I had no idea was going to be this chaotic. And it was a huge wake up call for me, man. I needed to realize that we weren't ready. There were still things that we had to work on as a business. And I needed to focus on getting those things ironed out with my business first. Those were a priority before I could even consider a software change. And Housecall Pro since day one, I left and I came back. I learned my lesson. You guys told me about it. It's kind of like a running story, obviously, which is kind of funny and awesome in a way too. But you guys have been able to engage with the community to a level that I haven't seen anywhere else, and you make significant changes. Like, you don't just listen to us and say, "Oh, that sounds great. Maybe we'll think about it, in 5 years." Like, you actually put pen to paper and do stuff. So I'm like, I'm going to grow with you. So what if you don't have this feature now? I know you probably will in a very short period of time. So
that's right. Yeah. I think it's hard as a business owner. You get into business because you're like, I want to grow. And you're always constantly looking for what's that thing that's going to get me to grow. Mm-hmm. And I think, a lot of it is just internal growth. But then from, when you're thinking about software just in general, you got to find a partner that's willing to listen, willing to take feedback, and willing to make changes. And if they're willing to do that, there may be shiny things that pop out in front of you, but there's just so much, even in the last couple years, that have just like come out with Housecall Pro. It's only been because of the feedback from our super pros, from our pros that are just coming in and saying like, hey, I wish I could do this, or I wish I could do that. What are some features that you're using in Housecall Pro now, or maybe going to very soon, or that you think, oh man, I just wish I would have known this like a couple of years ago. I wish I would turn this on later or sooner and rather than later. Like what are those?
So you were breaking up a little bit. So I think I heard most of what you were saying, but
yeah. So what are some of the features that you're like, oh man, I wish I would have started using those like earlier or sooner, that maybe are underutilized?
I would say property profile. That feature has just been under the radar. I bet you if you were to talk to most pros, they're like, oh yeah, we kind of know it's there, but like, what is it, by the way? Yeah. I really look back into it actually within the last week or two, and I'm like, this is actually such a great thing that we need to properly record all of our assets, our water heaters, our pumps, our tankless water heaters. And without digging through customer history and trying to pinpoint where all that is, it's such a nice thing to have that kind of follows through with the client and the customer. And that's definitely an underutilized feature. Checklist too. I know there's definitely some things you guys are looking at to take to the next level with checklist. And I think there's so much potential with it. That's going to be really pivotal for a lot of our businesses. But I see a lot of good things that are going to come down the road with that. But that's obviously a great thing to have too, making sure that you can have your team accountable to your standard operating procedures, that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, to your expectations. That's just a nice checks and balances thing that also I feel like is probably another underutilized thing that we're continuing to get better at utilizing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at checklists and they're like, oh no, this can only be like a mechanical style checklist. So like, turn this thing, tune that thing, take this measurement. But like checklist could also be like, did you shake the customer's hand? Did you put your booties on? Did you ask them if you provided a 5-star service? And if not, if there's anything you could do before you left? It doesn't just only have to be like the actual turning the wrench part of the job. It can be all kinds of different things that you can attach to any job. You can attach in estimates, whatever you want. But it's definitely one of those features where, if you're trying to deliver that consistent high level bar of service, just documenting those things. And then combine it with like your training facility, like just those things. I mean, I'm looking at your reviews, 705 reviews, like 4.9 star. By the way, I don't think you want to have 5 stars with 705 reviews. You actually want to have like a little bit under because everybody makes mistakes. But anytime there's like a 1-star review or not a good review, you've got like such a great answer as like an owner, coming in there and helping there. So how do you think about the responses and how do you deal with that? Because you're doing something right.
The responses, a lot of people know this. Responses are actually a great marketing tool for you because you know what? It tells you that you're an honest, raw company where we're not subject to perfect consistency. We make mistakes. How you're responding obviously tells a lot of the content of your character and the way that you run that company. So, I mean, honestly, I can't sleep at night sometimes when I get it. Would I love 5 stars? I mean, obviously, but I do acknowledge that the 4.9 is actually better reflected for us versus the 5-star because it almost feels a little fake if you're completely 5-star. But right. Yeah, we're a huge proponent with reviews. I mean, one of those day one things that I did was we got signed up with Nice Job. And I didn't even realize the reviews that were coming in. I'm like, oh, cool, we got a review. And then like a year later, I'm like, oh my God, we have like 100 reviews, 5-star. And that was like, that made so much difference with our SEO, the way that people are finding us, the way that people are making decisions on hiring us when they never met us and they're on the phone. They're like, oh man, you got great reviews. Like you have to be good. So back to what we talked about earlier. I mean, if you're looking for key things as a small company on growing, look at your reviews. You got to there's softwares out there that will exponentially grow your ratings. You could get those 5-star reviews coming in hand over fist every week, every month. I guarantee if you look at your surrounding area, there's not going to be a lot of companies that have more than 30, 40, 50 reviews total on Google and Yelp. Like there's such a massive opportunity for you to distinguish yourself amongst everyone else.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, even your Yelp is good. You got 150 reviews, 4.8. And, if you even look at the closer ones, they're not even close. I was reading this one review. It's cool. It's like, Good Guy Plumbing is the way to go. Their online system for updating customers on ETA and the work they have done is clear and easy for anyone. Can pay by credit card, making the process seamless and easy. It's almost as if I wrote this review, but it's not. It's Joey Perry. 2 reviews, 3 photos. The Good Guy employees are all very professional. They keep your house spotless. Also met the owner, Rob, as he came by to check on the job and was very thankful and helpful through the whole process. Make Good Guy Plumbing your next choice. It's like, cool, man. Like some of these reviews that are just like unreal. It's like people write these, but it just goes to show like all of these ones. It's kind of fun to kind of like read through them and especially the new ones too. It's such great feedback here.
It's awesome, man. I seriously, it's funny because we have a TV out in our classroom area and people like to post revenue and goals. And while we do have that too, like my big thing is like, I got reviews front and center. I'll go through every week when we have training. At the end of the training, the last 5 minutes, I go through that week's reviews. And some of them have the technicians' names in it. I'm like, all right, guys, let's go through reviews. Because a lot of the guys, I have to continue to just like keep them like motivated and believing in our mission. And it's like, they get so excited when they hear their name in a review and they're like, oh, wow, like that extra hour that I took to like really go above and beyond for that customer paid off, right? Like they always think sometimes like, oh, I don't want to do that. It feels like so much more work. I don't know if I want to get the money from that type of deal. And it's like, when that review comes in, they're like, dude, this guy was the best. I can't believe he pet my dog. He cleaned up better than it was before. The way that I booked the appointment, the people at the office booking my call, the trucks pulling in were amazing. Like all that is it's so rewarding, man. And it's so nice. And I always have to get that back into my guys' hands and my team's hands. I say, guys, look at the purpose that you have. Look at all the fulfillment that you have. Look at the lives that you're changing.
It's really cool because, I was just like, before this, I was like, oh, let me just search this up real quick. But then the book online button came up on your Google business profile, the blue button, which is new, right. Which is great because it just links directly to your online booking. And there's so many folks that don't have that big blue button. And so standing out in kind of like a sea of, other service professionals, that's a big one. But I haven't checked this in a while, but you've got great pictures on all of these things. Like it's very clean and easy to get through. But it's fun to see those things pop up in the reviews, even for me, because I'm like, oh yeah, totally. The technician on my way picture. It's just like little things like that, just like really, really add up. It's really cool to see.
It's got to be cool for you too. I mean, you're obviously engaged with so many companies, right? And then, I'm sure in your downtime, you're looking at reviews, and I mean, it's got to be really cool for you and the guys at Housecall Pro, the team at Housecall Pro, to just see like your work actually make an impact into somebody's experience when they leave that review. Like, because of that 5-star service that this company, Good Guy Plumbing or whoever provided, part of that was because of the stuff you guys are doing at Housecall Pro. Like, it's cool to like see that from your perspective looking in, you know?
Yeah, our mission is to champion all of our pros to success, and just like seeing the success is the biggest motivator for all of us. Even when, we're in our Facebook group and we get so much feedback and everyone's like, how did you not think about adding this feature, that feature? I'm like, oh, this is such great feedback. Keep it coming.
Right.
Because that's how we grow. That's how we learn. That's how we build a better product for all of you guys. And if nobody cared, the worst would be nobody says anything, right? It's just crickets.
Like, as a consumer, I feel like when I look at reviews before buying a product or a service or anything, I don't actually come to think of it. I don't think I ever really see people comment on, oh, the experience booking the service or booking the call was phenomenal. The technology that was used was amazing. Like, nobody like really calls that out. You know what I mean? And it's funny. I bet you like every 5 or 10 different types of reviews that you get from most companies acknowledge the type of like technology that empowered them to do what they wanted to do business with us. It's like, you don't kind of recognize that. You know what I mean?
It's cool. Yeah. Cause you can definitely read in between the lines.
For sure.
Yeah. So what are some other tips? I feel like, you have the tech dialed in, you've got the training dialed in, you've got the brand dialed in. Like, as you're looking at having your best year this year, like, what are some changes you're making and or adding, and like what are you thinking about? What's next for Rob? What's next for Good Guy Plumbing?
That's so great. A lot of people get really excited about doing a lot of things at once, and sometimes that takes away from the fundamental core business that you're doing. So my philosophy was always a big fish in a small pond. I want to really absorb everything in my community. Like, I want to be that big fish in a small pond. I want to get Good Guy Plumbing as a staple name for just our community. I'm not interested right now in expanding to nearby cities. There's just so much that we could accomplish here. But I think really from just a business standpoint is this year is just polishing so many of our procedures, documenting a lot of our procedures, making sure that all those things that we've been exponentially growing quickly into doing, we got to make sure that we're continually doing that, right? Writing those down, documenting, holding people accountable. And that way, when you continue to grow and scale, none of those things slip through the cracks. You're not getting one person doing something different than another person, right? You want to make sure that you have that. And then for us, really, I think a big thing that we're doing is we're getting 2 big manager positions for the company. That's going to free up a lot of my time. So I really want to focus on like community outreach. I want to get more involved. I want to sponsor 5K runs. I want to get involved more in the community and do things that really match the Good Guy Plumbing brand, right? We want to be good people first, and that's what we are to our team here and our customers out there. But I want to do that for all the people in the community. And I think that's going to be a way for us to do some guerrilla marketing so we don't have to just fight tooth and nail with every other big company online, but actually get back to the community. And so they could see that we're just more than a plumbing company servicing them.
Yeah, I think using the community as a great just marketing and branding strategy is just underutilized. Right. And it's often hard to track the ROI of like sponsoring a 5K run or those things. But you can definitely tell a difference. And I talk to so many business owners, so many pros that are like, yeah, I just started doing that. The Little League, the 5K, the freaking leprechaun run, like all this stuff that's like happening now. But when it comes back to it, having the good brand where people it's like memorable and people can remember it makes such a big difference in getting them to come back to you. So when they think about it and something happens, because most plumbing things happen because you didn't expect it to happen, and then you gotta be top of mind, right? You gotta be in that first slot, and then when you're in that first slot and you've got the reviews that help you get to high on the search engine results page, the SERPs, then it all kind of comes together. And I feel like those community events, although it's hard to measure the ROI, are super important. And I'm glad you're continuing to invest and do more of that this year because you've just got all the other pieces dialed in to make sure you take full advantage of that.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. You can't track it, but with marketing, you got to try to do a little bit of everything. Smaller companies, I know that can be difficult from a budget standpoint. Focus online as much as you can. Get those reviews piling up as best as you can, but it doesn't cost a lot of money to get back in the community.
Yeah.
Even if you go shake hands, go to a farmer's market, go to like your local chamber of commerce, go to church, go to do all these things, have your shirt on, go hand out business cards. Just, you could do little things that make up a really big impact. And you'd be surprised the people that remember you or refer their cousin, their mother, their next door neighbor, whatever it may be. Like, it's just going to start kind of trickling in.
Yeah, I feel like that's a great point. And then the other benefit you have is you're so geographically like located in one area. And if you focus on smaller areas, you can really saturate that, to where everyone gets that feeling where like, oh my God, I see the good guy trucks everywhere. Like they're everywhere, and that's how you can build that, just like geo at a time.
Exactly.
Super cool. So, what do you think your 2025 goals are going to be like? I'm assuming, I don't know, 2024 is in the bag, but like what's next?
Oh, 2025. Wow. Considering I don't even know what my plans are next week, let's forecast 2 years from now. No, as a business owner, you obviously want to see like what's your 5, 10 plus year plan. Capitalizing on our community, that big fish, small pond scheme, that vision that I want. I think for us to really continue that and take care of our clients the best way that we can, I think we just have to introduce other trades. HVAC absolutely is a big consideration. And so many of my customers say, do you do HVAC? Do you know an HVAC person? And there's more companies right now that are HVAC first, and they're starting to open up plumbing companies. So I don't obviously want that customer to look elsewhere when their heating and cooling go down. And oh, by the way, they do plumbing. So we've done so much to build relationships in our community with so many of our clients, only to lose that to another competitor that does the service that we don't offer.
Yep.
So yeah, I think the HVAC is probably going to be the next move. I've actually been considering restoration because I think that and plumbing go hand in hand.
Oh yeah.
Different beast altogether with insurance companies, all the nightmares that come along with that, obviously. But we're definitely want to expand our reach with additional services that we offer and just make Good Guy more of a household name in the home services business, not so much just a plumbing company.
Yeah, I love it. And then your logo's already set up for like Good Guy Plumbing and Heating. We're like, you're already like it's like you thought about all this right from the get-go. Almost.
Yeah, I've already rhymed out the slogan for our commercial once we have heating and air. I won't say it because I don't want to embarrass myself, but if you look at our slogan and rhyme that with heating and air, then you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But I've jingled that in the showers a couple of times in the last few years. So I really have the vision of where it's going down the road.
I love it. Well, I mean, look, that's a great golden nugget for any of the other pros that are kind of reaching or somewhere near a point where, Rob's at, where your hardest thing is to get a customer to trust you. And once you're in the door, they're going to ask you for all kinds of stuff. And if you can be the one-stop shop, then you can capitalize on all that. And that's just going to get you so much better ROI out of all your marketing, out of all the things that you're doing. So I think that's 100% the right choice. That's a great golden nugget. You don't actually have to expand your geo. You can also just go multi-trade in your exact geo and do just as much or more because your metrics it just all makes sense. That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Rob. I appreciate you coming on here. I appreciate you being a Housecall Pro, Superpro. Thanks for sharing all of your knowledge, your tidbits, all these golden nuggets. And I'm sure you're going to do great this year. And feel free to give me a call whenever you need anything.
Much appreciated, Roland. Always big thanks to you, your friendship, and the team at Housecall Pro for making it all happen.
Awesome. Have a great weekend.
You too.